Hi neighbor, it's me Hal. How you doing? How you feeling? We're live-ish. The president is just about to give his little speech. We're gonna go to that live right now, shall we? Chat room. It's just, it's gonna be a good time. I'm just saying. By the way, incredible footage, I will say, of, where is it? Before this thing even gets started, of them showing Bill Barr standing by his lonesome. Where is it? Here it is. There he is. I'm the saddest little man in the world. I look like the dinosaur from the old TV show. I don't want to be standing out here getting thrown under the bus. Just a dick move. That was a nice eye roll. When somebody got to isolate that one, keep it. Okay, let's jump ahead. The president making everybody wait for 20 minutes. And then, ladies and gentlemen, here he comes. I'm lumbering. Every day I'm lumbering. Every day I'm lumbering. What's happening, Amy K? Good to see you, Victoria. Hi, everybody in the chat room. We'll get to you as we go along. You guys are wonderful. Everything sound okay? Let me know if there's any audio issues and that kind of stuff, because I'm doing this as live. It's just because of life. So glad to be here. Thank you guys for coming and covering my mandatory ego jerk fest every day.
Well, thank you very much, and I see we have fewer people because of the virus problem.
Slowly, my plan to wipe out the press corps by taking the only dose of vaccine that exists in the world and breathing all over everyone.
And we appreciate you being here.
So that you can continue to get sick. Thanks for practicing social distancing. We may look closer up here, but it's only because Bill Barr is wider than everybody else.
This is getting to be more and more social distancing, and that's fine.
They're not social distancing. Somebody's gone because they're sick.
So it should be, and
so it should be, and so it shall be, and let it be written, let it be done. I'll kill the firstborn Pharaoh's son.
It's too bad. We extend our best wishes to
whoever it was,
the person affected, and we feel
who's been breathing all over us.
We're sure that he or she will be better very soon. And thank
I love how Burke says, maybe not.
Thank you for being here, America. Continue.
Barr's like, I'm not going out there until they get rid of the sick person.
To mobilize every segment of our society to turn the tide in the battle
against reading
the virus. I want Americans to know that we will get through this challenge. The hardship will end. It will end soon.
And before you know it, we'll be back to making fat stacks.
Normal life will return, and our economy will rebound very, very strongly. But right now, in the midst of this great national trial, Americans must remain united in purpose and focused on victory.
Victory? I like that word. They wrote that down for me.
To every single American, please know that the sacrifice you're making at this time is saving lives. Many, many lives.
Many lives. Although we can't let the cure be worse than the disease, so at a certain point, you can't make an omelet without breaking some Americans. Thank you, Starley.
It's very important that we totally protect our Asian American community in the...
Oh yeah, we finally come around, and calling it the Chinese virus isn't good for the health of Chinese Americans and people visiting.
United States and all around the world.
Yeah, don't take a plane and go beat up Chinese people, MAGA people. I mean, first of all, you'll catch something.
Asian people, and the spreading of the virus is not their fault in any way, shape, or form.
And Barr in the background, well.
They're working closely with us to get rid of it. We will prevail together. It's very important.
Very important to read that. They told me it was very important to read that, otherwise I would lose a lot of votes.
From the beginning, we have been working closely with our nation's best scientists and medical professionals, and we will continue to do so.
Do so as I continue to read about do
until we have defeated the virus.
We will defeat it. It's a war. We're winning the war. We're going to win so good there'll be a party.
Our public health experts, who are terrific,
You're great, fantastic. You're doing a fantastic
are
job.
studying the variation in the disease across the country, and we will be using data to recommend new protocols to allow local economies to cautiously resume their activity at the appropriate time. We also have a large team working on what the next steps will be once the medical community gives the region the okay, meaning the okay to get going, to get back. Let's go to work.
That's in case you want to know what the okay is, that it's okay to be a human again.
Our country wasn't built to be shut down. This is
Really? That's weird.
not a country that was built for this. It was not built to be shut down.
Really? The rest of what countries were built to be shut down?
My administration continues to work with Democrats and Republicans to reach an agreement on an urgent relief bill for
Bars like, we do? When did that shit start?
the millions of American workers and small businesses and large businesses that were badly affected by the medical difficulty that we've had.
The medical difficulty that we have, the prostate issue that we had. I found a lump while I was showering and I was concerned for a while, so I decided to shut down the airports. What? Just say it.
If you had a
Oh, share this. Oh, beg your pardon. You're right. Sorry, that's what they was going. Okay, here we go. Dump. My bad. Thank you. I'm sorry. You asked for it. Now you got to look at them.
viable business in January, we are committed to ensuring the same is true.
You were missing out on watching a grown man read.
In the coming weeks, in fact, we want to make it even better than it was before. We're doing things to help in that regard.
We're going to allow the companies to buy their stocks back and shell companies to shovel money to the Cayman Islands like you never have seen before.
America will again and soon be open for business, very soon.
Very soon, or not.
A lot sooner than 3 or 4 months that somebody was suggesting.
You suggested that when you were talking about July, August. Dummy.
A lot sooner. We cannot let the cure be worse than the problem itself. We're not going to let the cure be worse than the problem.
Cure be worse than the disease is the phrase that you're looking for. Dummy.
At the end of the 15-day
We can't let the cure be worse than Duran Duran.
period, we'll make a decision as to which way we want
Is up.
to go, where we want to go, the timing, and essentially we're referring to the timing of the opening.
But that's in case you want to know. We'll go up where we're gonna. What the hell?
Essentially the opening of our country.
Oh, it's like a grand reopening, change of management. I did, Starly. I actually emailed you back today. Check your mail. It's called a Shoesy bracelet.
Because we have it pretty well shut down in order
I don't know if you've noticed. Look over your
to
shoulder.
get rid of this invisible enemy. 2 weeks ago, we moved at record speed to pass
No, you didn't.
paid sick leave and paid family medical leave
No, you didn't.
and approve $8 billion, including money for the development of treatments and vaccines, and we're doing tremendous work on both fronts. The vaccines are coming along very quickly.
Are they? Are they really coming along very quickly? Are they moving faster than the speed of science? Are they? It's wonderful. Isn't it great that I'm coming up with vaccines? Like, it's basically me and Cuba Gooding Jr. and a monkey
Now Congress must
and a helicopter
demonstrate the
and a yellow suit. I'm the man.
same bipartisanship again and join together to pass the Senate bill as written and avoid
As written. Did you see I breezed past that part?
playing any more partisan games. They have to get together.
You gotta stop doing these partisan games. You gotta let the Republicans slam through whatever they are. You can't do that to people.
Stop with the partisan politics.
And let us put it in a thing that outlaws Mexicans.
I think that's happening.
I've got a thing, just a couple of little things we wanted added to the bill that it's now illegal to be Mexican on Earth.
A little while ago,
I'm going to work on that.
I guess they're getting closer. Should go
Well, they can't get further away.
quickly. And it must go quickly. It's not really a choice. They don't have a choice. They have to make a deal.
Really? Tell us, how do you make a deal? Tell me how you make a deal again. Was it like you made with the Taliban? That one that lasted 3
It
hours?
should not be a time for political agendas, but rather one for focusing solely and squarely on the needs
Of business owners and their abilities to buy their stocks back.
of the American people.
And Steve Mnuchin mainly what he wants.
We are
We are trying to read in public.
going to save American workers, and we're going to save them quickly.
Good, okay. Faster than, what the hell?
And we're going to save our great American companies, both small
And large and wide and skinny and tall and short and fat and stout and sleepy, gropey, dumpy and doc.
and large. This was a medical problem.
It's a problem.
We are not going to let it turn into a long-lasting financial problem. Started out as a purely medical problem.
Did it? Because you might want to also say it's a governing problem.
And it's not going to go beyond that.
No,
We're just not going to allow that to
no, we're not going to let it happen. Look at Barr staring at the back of his head. Like, Jesus, dumbass, shut up.
happen. Our country
It's like, literally, it's like he's staring a hole in his head.
was at its strongest financial point. We've
We're doing so good, if you didn't remember.
never had an economy like we had
Never. Now we got all these dead Americans blowing my high.
just a few weeks ago, and then it got
Screwed up.
hit with something that nobody could have ever thought possible.
Actually, a lot of people thought possible. It's why we have an Office of Pandemic Response. It's why we have a CDC. It's why we have an NIH. It's why the World Health Organization monitors this kind of stuff. I mean, yeah.
And
And-
we're fixing it. We're fixing it
Quickly.
And I want to just
Yeah.
thank the American people for
We're
what
fixing
they've
it so fast that you make your head
been
spin.
through and what they're doing. Our country will be
Thank the American people for what they've been through and what they're doing.
stronger than ever before, and we fully anticipate that, and it won't be that long. Let me provide you with an update on critical supplies. FEMA is distributing 8 million N95 respirator masks and 13.3 million surgical masks across the country right now. Focusing on the areas with the greatest need, we've shipped 73 pallets of personal protective equipment to New York City and 36 pallets to the state of Washington.
Great. That's about 2 weeks worth.
In the past 96 hours, FEMA
The rest of the country's screwed, but you know, they got 2 weeks worth of stuff.
has also received donations of approximately 6.5 million masks. We're having millions and millions of masks
Millions and zillions, gazillions, Brazilians of masks
made as we speak,
smade.
and other personal protective equipment, which we will be distributing to medical hotspots. We're focused on
They're very hot. These are the hottest new places or whatever. South Beach, forget it. It's all the rage.
some of the hotspots. Across the nation, we're seeing an outpouring of creativity and innovative ideas widely shared.
It's wonderful what people are having to do in a total crisis or whatever. People are wearing their underwear on their heads. It's a miracle.
Between the federal health leaders, governors, and mayors, the
By mayor, I mean a male horse.
scientific community, and members of the private sector, really working together. Everybody's working together.
Everybody's working great. I don't even have to do anything.
Pleased to report that clinical trials in New York will begin existing for existing drugs that may prove effective
The clinical trials will begin to exist. They didn't exist. Not till Trump.
against the virus. At my direction, the federal government is working to help obtain large quantities of chloroquine.
Yeah, which a couple tried to use to save themselves, and the man died, and the woman's in critical condition. You mean that
And
condition? I can speak.
you can look from any standpoint tomorrow in New York. We think tomorrow pretty early, the hydroxychloroquine and
Say the other
the
one. Say it.
Z-Pack I think it's a combination, probably is looking very, very good, and it's going to be distributed. And we have 10.
No, they're not distributing it. They've got to do a test at his direction. Start testing these drugs on poor people, because by the time it gets to me, I want to know which of the stuff kills you.
1,000
Lucky you, America. Welcome to my guinea pig farm.
units going, and it'll be
I haven't had my unit going in weeks.
distributed tomorrow. It'll be available, and is now. They already have it. They're going to distribute it tomorrow morning.
No, they're not. They're not like passing it out to New Yorkers. What are you talking about?
To a lot of people in New York City
No, they won't.
and New York.
Oh, all right.
We're studying it very closely, watching it very closely. You probably saw a couple of articles today came out where a gentleman, they thought he was not going to make it.
Yeah, the guy you retweeted who took it and he survived, not because of the drug, but
He said goodbye to his family. They had given him the drug just a little while before, but he thought it was over. His family thought he was going to die.
going to die. It's a lovely little story, let me tell you. And he didn't.
Hours later, he woke up, felt good, and then he woke up again, and he felt really good, and he's in good shape.
And we don't know if it was the drug or if he just was one of the people that had passed us through and he was on a respirator like 18% of the sick people.
He's very happy for this particular drug that we got approved in record-setting time.
It's not approved.
There's never been anything even close to it.
That part is true. What he just said, there's never been anything even close to it. This is the level of bullshit here you have never seen in many, many, many years.
And I want to thank the FDA
for just shoveling untested drugs into the throats of poor and sick people. So,
which has been incredible.
Incredible. They're doing a fantastic job.
Dr. Hahn, Stephen Hahn, highly respected man, but they're doing everything
He came out and he said, O'Hara's treachery has disgraced us. That's a Hahn joke. Never mind.
Production.
Mr. Hahn, suddenly I'd like to leave your island.
And an available supply of these.
Why did you attack my gods last night?
Drug.
And Enter the Dragon? Anybody? No? I needed a break.
Not only this drug, but also other.
Oh, the drugs. We're just pouring opioids down their throat. I'm basically the medic in Saving Private Ryan, injecting myself with morphine and shoving my guts back into my belly.
Remdesivir is coming from Regeneron.
Wait a minute. Remdesivir? What happened to Remdesivir? 2 days ago, it was Remdesivir.
A couple of others.
And of course, he's testing the suppository right now. You say the word and
They're also under study. But the one that I'm very excited about right now is the one we just mentioned, and I think there's a real chance. I mean, again,
should be good. I'm just, try it. Sure, it's a drug that you can find in pool cleaning supplies. Eat that. See what that happens. Little Clorox, little Pop Rocks. It's very promising. Notice Fauci isn't here today.
we don't know, but there's a real chance that it could have a tremendous impact. It would be
almost as good as a rubber mallet to the forehead. Very.
A gift from God.
Or science.
If that worked.
Or science.
That would be a big game changer. So
a gift from God might be a lightning bolt right now. I'm just
we'll see, but distribution starts tomorrow morning early. And
they're not distributing it. They're testing it in
New York, and I think a lot of people are going to be, hopefully they're going to be very happy with the result, but we're all going to be watching closely.
Are we?
It's something we have to try. It's been very, very successful in malaria. Very, very successful.
But malaria is not the same disease, dipshit. No, you don't understand. This drug is like bacon. It's just good in everything. You could put it in apple pie. Notice how people used to just have bacon with eggs? Then we started trying it everywhere. You got bacon Fritos. This is the bacon of drugs.
Successful. And
we're cooking up a batch right now.
Countries with malaria have had a interesting thing happen. They take this particular drug. It's a very powerful drug. And there is very little semblance of the virus in those countries.
Because they're not, countries with a lot of malaria or third world countries, and they're not. If we can't test it here, what the hell makes you think they can test for it there? People just die there in piles all the time.
And there are those that say because this drug is very prevalent because of the malaria. So we'll see what happens.
But enough QAnon videos for the day.
I'm also announcing that we're postponing the deadline for compliance with real ID requirements at a time when we're asking Americans to maintain social distancing.
It's a little hard to go to the DMV.
We do want to require people to go with their local DMV. We will be announcing
to go with their local. What he's trying to say is, at a time when you're encouraging people to use social distancing, it's a little difficult to go to the DMV, which is a very crowded place. So they're pushing off the deadline for real ID. I mean, was that hard? All right.
The new deadline very soon is going to be
so much better.
Announced in a very
short period of time. A short moment.
Overnight,
most moments take forever. I should write greeting cards.
Successfully brought home 103 American citizens after they had been stranded for 10 days in Brazil.
Once I found out that they didn't have the disease, unlike those assholes on that cruise ship that fucked up my curve.
Following a cruise, we want to thank the Brazilian government and their great president. Most of those returned were senior citizens. My administration, in cooperation with Governor Greg Abbott of Texas and the private sector, coordinated their safe return to the United States. So thank you to Governor Abbott.
You mean he just took care of it and you found out afterwards and you want credit?
Terrific governor, terrific man.
Terrific state, terrific plan, terrific Eminem, terrific stand.
Earlier today, I signed an executive order invoking presidential authority under Section 4512 of the Defense Production Act to prohibit the hoarding of vital medical equipment and supplies.
Very important.
Such as hand sanitizers, face masks, and personal protective equipment. We have a lot of face masks, a lot of equipment just coming in, and we have some people hoarding. And Attorney General Barr is going to be speaking about that in a second.
Am I? But I'm all dead inside. Look at me. I'm the saddest man in the world. Oh.
We want to prevent price gouging and critical health.
Or gorging or godding.
Health and medical resources are going to be protected in every form under this directive. The Secretary
whether by land, by sea, by air.
of Health and Human Services.
Oh, there's no Fauci today. No.
Services is authorized to designate essential health and medical supplies as scarce. So it'll designate certain supplies and medical elements as scarce.
Oh, scarce. You mean stuff you don't have enough of? Hang on a second. Weren't we just told for the last 5 days that we got plenty and already pallets have shipped and they got tons of stuff and they're way ahead of it and you got plenty of tests and anybody who wants a test can get a test and there are masks everywhere and they're overwhelmed in the public-private partnerships and now they're being declared scarce.
And that means it will be a crime to stockpile these items in it.
Because they are scarce.
Excessive quantities, which is happening to a relatively small degree, we think, but nevertheless it's happening. We can't let it happen. And we can't let them resell them at excessive prices, which some people are doing.
So you mean the ones yelling "Go Trump, go" while they buy up all the paper towels, like those folks?
Very simply, we will not allow anyone to exploit the suffering of American citizens for their own profit.
That's my job.
So we're going to be watching that with our great Attorney General very closely. The Department of
We're going to be
Justice
sitting around the fire, just looking at it with our great Attorney General. He'll be right over my right.
Aggressively prosecuting fraudulent schemes related to the pandemic. Yesterday,
everything else is fine. You know, cheating on your golf scores, still legal.
Federal prosecutors took action in their first case, shutting down a website selling a totally fake vaccine. You can believe that one.
Yeah, you mean like the televangelist that supported you that was pushing a... Yeah, all right.
As president, I will always fight to protect Americans from being exploited.
Oh, yeah, I could tell.
Thanks.
I feel so much safer. Don't you guys feel better? We're not going to get exploited.
All throughout the country, we're witnessing extraordinary acts of compassion.
In spite of how my government is running.
Benevolence and unity. Construction.
Unity. Did you hear that word? Unity. I'm the unity guy.
Companies are donating masks by the hundreds of thousands. Manufacturing workers are transforming their assembly lines. Citizens are volunteering to deliver food and medicine to the elderly.
It's just his reading is just riveting. You know what I mean? It's not so much that he can, breeze through these very difficult terms, but it's also you can just feel the emotional content, what's meaningful. By the way, he picks words out at random and says them up. Unity, because it's underlined, scarce. Because they are scarce.
Elderly. We're truly seeing America at its best. We're really seeing things that
so good. I'll just repeat something.
People never thought even could happen. Frankly, we never thought this could happen.
No, nobody would have. Who could have thought this was gonna? I mean, this is ridiculous. Am I right?
But the way most Americans are working toward getting it solved and just doing what they have to do
to get it done. The way America. You do what you do, when you do what you do to me.
To make this go away.
Make it go away. Incredible.
It's been incredible.
Incredible.
I want to take a moment to thank the everyday heroes who are making our vast effort against the virus possible.
Let's hear this. This is good. Look. He's really deepening his tone now. This is him at his most presidential. Read it for me, big boy.
And thank you to the healthcare workers and the first responders. These are very brave people. Thanks also to the hardworking men and women of Federal Express, UPS.
I talked to their CEOs yesterday. I shook hands with them, sneezed all over a bunch of boxes. It was great.
United States Postal Service and the truckers who are maintaining our supply chains and supply lines. We thank you very much. Great job.
Great, super. Anyways, Walmart.
We also want to...
So great job. So you could just tell. Comes from the heart. I mean, look how excited Bill Barr is. He's in prayer right now. He's not sleeping. He's praying. There's a difference. If you don't know the difference, it's because you hate God.
Our regards and thanks to everyone at our grocery stores working the night shift so that shelves can be restocked.
Yeah, they shouldn't be in this position, but they are. And the states are providing them with the means to do it.
And the restaurant workers and delivery drivers keeping our families fed. So many of these restaurants, it's incredible they're doing.
Wendy's, Mickey D's. I haven't had a fish delight in days. I'm about to choke the shit out of somebody.
Serviceware.
That's what he calls the McDonald's fish sandwich, by the way, the Filet-O-Fish. Filet-O-Fish. He somehow got in his head a long time ago that the McDonald's fish sandwich is called the Fish Delight. So that's what he orders.
People come and they pick it up.
Can Barr touch his face more, like his mouth and his nose particularly, before he dozes off right behind him? Oh, Jesus Christ, I've never seen a man need a CPAP while standing.
Delivery, I mean, it's been incredible.
It's so good, I love delivery.
What they've been doing.
Yeah, I send people out to get my food all the time, and they bring me back Fish Delight.
Totally different business than they were in, other than they cook food. Other than that, it's like a totally different business.
It's like they cook food and sell it, but in a different. It goes out the door instead of out your butt.
Most of all, I want to thank the American people for rising to the challenge and showing incredible courage, determination, patience, grace, and grit.
Grit. Determination, grace, and grit.
From New York to...
You can just feel it, you know what I mean? Like, I'm feeling it today. I wasn't feeling it before. I'm feeling it today, Mr. President. You could tell something changed, and he's finally.
Seattle and everywhere in between, your acts of selflessness and sacrifice and ingenuity are
All that other bullshit.
powerful testament to the American character. It's
really a good character. As the characters go, I thought it's not two-dimensional like some Michael Bay characters.
being shown. It's really showing up at a level that
No one has ever seen before.
people are really respecting all over the world.
Oh, they're just amazed at how we're all responding to not wanting to die.
And the world has problems. We're
It's just, the whole world's got problems. It's not just me.
148
Don't blame me.
countries now.
Okay, we're back to 148. So Wednesday it was 100. Last week it was 148. Then it went down to 144. Day before yesterday. Then later it was 140 plus. Now it's back up to 148. So we're riding that wave.
Now, 148
I didn't even know there were that many countries.
countries are affected by the invisible
Grit. You know, when you get something in your teeth, like when you eat spinach and you get that
scourge.
scourge. God damn.
And all of the uplifting reflections of the American spirit are out there for everyone to see.
The uplifting reflections of the American spirit. What?
Together we will care for our fellow citizens, and we will win this war, and we'll win it
Quickly.
much sooner than people think. And we'll be back in business as a country
Because that's what we are. We're not a country, we're a business. Let's be honest.
pretty soon. You'll be
Pretty soon. Like, just put that on your calendar. Just quick. Where's pretty soon on here?
hearing about that also pretty soon.
Pretty soon. There's lots of pretty soons. I'm topping those around. The title of this speech is Pretty Soon, America.
Now I'd like to ask Attorney General Bill Barr to say a few words,
Before he passes out.
and we'll take questions in a little while. Thank you.
Okay. Oh boy, it's gonna be good.
Let me start by thanking you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, for
Yeah, please. You have to, or otherwise you get an electric shock from the podium.
your decisive leadership in this unprecedented battle to save American lives.
There's literally, it's so unprecedented. It's almost like we don't have a president. It's amazing.
The Department of Justice will
The
work
Department of
hard to
Justice,
protect the health
we've
and
been working.
safety of our personnel.
That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to give everybody diabetes.
Time, keeping our enforcement efforts at full throttle.
Oh, I like that word, throttle. I'm going to borrow that.
I'd like to thank all of my colleagues in law enforcement, not just those at the federal level, but of all our state and local partners, the police officers, the sheriff's deputies who are protecting and serving their communities, often
My brother, the bail bondsman. My sister, the meter maid.
at great risk to themselves. What I'd like to do here is start
Just leave.
with a few remarks about the order that the president mentioned
About hoarding, right.
to ensure the availability of critical medical and health supplies from hoarding and price gouging. On March
Yeah, we know.
18th, the president issued Executive Order 13909 invoking the Defense Production Act
And then he sat on it for 3 days.
with respect to the health and medical resources needed to respond
Oh, sorry.
to the spread of COVID-19, including PPE and ventilators.
He said pee-pee.
We have started to see some evidence of potential hoarding and price gouging. And so earlier today, the president signed a second executive order
Did he?
providing the authority to address, if it becomes necessary, hoarding that threatens the supply of those necessary health and medical resources. Under Section 102 of the Defense Production Act, the
thank you,
president
Rob.
is authorized to prohibit the hoarding of needed resources
Oh my
by
God.
designating those materials as scarce or as materials whose supply would be threatened by persons accumulating excessive amounts.
Jesus.
Once specific
We know.
materials are so designated,
Look, the most important part of that act is getting companies to start repurposing their factories immediately to start producing this stuff. Because if we wait for them to play catch up, there's going to be tens of thousands of people dead because of this. And no, the hoarding is a news story. That's why he brought Barr out here for this nonsense. Made it.
Persons are prohibited from accumulating those items in excess of reasonable personal or business needs, or for the purpose of selling them in excess of prevailing market prices. It is a crime to engage in prohibited activity.
Oh, is it? Oh, it's new. Did you guys know that? Holy smokes. Thank God we have someone from the Justice Department to tell us that it is a crime to engage in prohibited activities. Now you can't, ignorance of the law is no excuse.
In today's executive order, the president is delegating to the Secretary of
Delegating? He's going to delegate it. It's very delicate.
HHS this authority to protect against hoarding by designating these critical items. Now,
So it's so important. We're going to do it later on today.
no items have been designated yet, and the Department of Justice is going to be working with HHS to identify cases where hoarding may be impeding the supply of health and medical resources needed to respond to the COVID-19.
We could be looking into possibly maybe finding out if and when there might be a situation where this is true. By the way, the entire point of this Defense Appropriations Act is so that we can actually make new stuff, not keep people from hoarding it, but whatever.
Pandemic.
You got to look like we're doing something besides melting.
Today, we convened our first task force meeting, a national task force.
Ooh, task force. That's good.
That will be working
It's like a human to-do list.
on these supply chain issues and
Now a warning.
specifically on the problem of hoarding and price gouging. And we are designating in each of our 93 United States Attorney's offices a lead prosecutor who will be responsible in that district for pursuing these cases. I also want to say that we have not waited for this order to be signed. As we have received evidence recently, we have already initiated investigations.
Oh, really? You mean
activities
because you didn't actually need to do this for it to work? That whole part,
that are
the president signed basically a fart in the air with a pen.
disrupting the supply chain and suggestive of
And Pence is serious about this too. Yeah. You've already been acting on. Apparently, this was illegal even before the president signed anything. I don't know, Maria, what the hell the point is of him talking, other than the fact that there's been a bunch of video stories on Twitter. The president has seen them, and Judge Janine called him in the middle of the night, going, "I am worried about us someone's been hoarding wine."
hoarding. I want to stress that we're not talking about
Whoring.
consumers or businesses stockpiling supplies for their own operations. We're talking about people hoarding these
In vans down by the river.
goods and materials on an industrial scale for the purpose of manipulating the market and ultimately deriving windfall profits.
So you're talking not the actual people who are buying truckloads of stuff personally and trying to sell them like the dude with the storage space, but like 3M doing it, which they're not going to be doing.
If
And we're not even going to bother with these small cases, what he's saying.
you have a big supply of toilet paper in your house, this is not
All right, dickhead. Toilet paper joke.
something you have to
He wrote that on his paper. Look how happy he is. I'm making a poo-poo-poo joke.
worry about.
Yeah. If you got a bunch of toilet paper, I'm not coming for you unless I got a deuce on deck.
But if you are sitting on a warehouse,
No pun intended. If you're sitting on a warehouse full of toilet paper, unless you're currently pooping
with masks, surgical masks, you will be hearing a knock on your door.
Oh, will you now? Really?
So with that, Mr. President, I'll
I'm going to leave.
turn it back to you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, by the way, I just woke up from my nap, which you can tell from the kick up of my hair in the back. Anytime you see somebody with that business happening, see his hair right there? That's what's happened when somebody just woke you up off the couch.
Thank
Okay, Barr, get out there, Mr. Law and Order.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. To start, I want to really thank all the ministers of health around the world who have...
I'd like to thank everyone who has twin daughters, millennials, who are wonderful and stuff. I'm back to the regular scarves.
been sending us their data.
I'm wearing the shirt from Risky Business and some foliage.
Despite the fight that they're in themselves, particularly our European colleagues.
She does look tired, so I believe she is working.
They continue to send us primarily their mortality data, which is
bumming out everybody in the office, so we wish they would stop.
Really very critical, because when you're in the midst of this level of fight that many of the European countries are, following mortality data will give you the best insight right now.
You mean the dead?
On how the epidemic is proceeding in those countries. Because
every time you say mortality, does he touch his glasses? Does Bart?
They really can.
What is Trump trying to do? It looks like he's trying to cheat off her paper. Could I say mortality? Let me say that.
Not be testing at the level to.
Well, he's got his neck gina's kind of listening to port today.
Really understand the depth and breadth of their new cases. In the mortality data that has been provided to
she's leaning on the podium today. She's not getting, she's doing the work in this task force.
Us, there has been no child under 15 that has succumbed to the.
By the way, give yourself a second right here and look at Trump's face and his hands.
There was the one 14-year-old.
Look at the color, the face, and then look at the color of the hands.
In China, so we still see that there is less severity in children, and so that should be reassuring to the mom.
Usually hands are darker than the face. And
dads out there. To Generation Z and to my millennial colleagues who have been really at the forefront of many of these responses, less than 1% of all the mortality is less than 50. And so this is, I think, also a very important point. That doesn't mean that individuals won't have severe disease. So still 99% of all the mortality coming out of Europe in general.
Look at Barr, like, why am I here?
Is over 50 and pre-existing conditions.
What are we talking about, pre-existing conditions? Is an addiction to crushed Sudafed? Does that count?
Existing condition
I don't know.
Still holds in Italy.
Like if you get winded taking 2 stairs up onto a podium, is that a pre-existing?
With the majority of the mortality having 3 or more pre-existing conditions. I think this.
Carl, right how most of us don't have a body complexion like a case of Neapolitan ice cream.
This is reassuring to all of us, but it doesn't change the need to continue.
Well, it's not reassuring if you're over 50 and you have pre-existing conditions like 42% of the United States.
Continue to protect the elderly, and in order to protect the elderly,
these aren't elderly.
All need to continue to do the president's.
I'm 50.
Directives and guidance for the next week of the 15-day challenge.
And then we're going to turn it off, and then we're going to, we're going to do what I thought we should have done with peanut allergies a long time ago.
Finally, I wanted to really close by thanking the laboratory personnel that have been at the front lines. 250,000 tests have been run in the last 7 days. This happened because these large commercial.
This happened because we're 3 weeks behind our goal of 1 million tests, like we said. Wait, are you sure that's not 750 million?
Laboratories are doing round-the-clock runs. And remember, all of them
I had round-the-clock runs last week, stupid fish delight.
are being exposed to the virus in the same way from the swabs. Yet tirelessly, they have worked on and on to get those
It's a beautiful thing. I wouldn't go anywhere near them right now, but yeah.
Results available. They are still getting more tests than they can run per day. That's because we were primarily expanded into what we call the Roche high throughput tri-core machine. Those results have been getting to the clients.
Some of you might be bedazzled by my techie talk.
And we've asked them to prioritize hospitalized patients. There was a breakthrough today, and I think you'll see this from the FDA, for all of those of you who are waiting for self-swabbing options. Those are going to be available sometime this week to be able to individuals do.
Say much sooner though than later. Say when you say this week, say basically tomorrow, but we'll see. Say that.
Their own tests. That said,
because if you say Sunday, it means next Thursday on my time scale. So what you do is you say people are saying Sunday, but I think much sooner probably. There's probably available right now. You probably are testing yourself as we speak.
Remember, these platforms are keeping up with those who need to be diagnosed in the hospitals and other.
She is wearing platforms because I'm almost 6'5". Interestingly enough, Bill Barr, not a tall guy.
Those who come to the emergency room quite ill, so that hospital beds can be freed up for those that don't have COVID. So that
bring in on zoom in, guys.
That will be critical. That if you don't need a test and if it doesn't change your clinical course, do not come in to be tested. And I think that mortality data that I gave you should be very reassuring to all.
No, because they don't. The people who have medical intervention need it. It's the hospitalization number where people require oxygen. If they don't get it, or if we run out of machines, that's when the body starts stacking up, dipshit.
All of you. Finally, to conclude, New York City. The New York metro area of
is a doomscape.
New Jersey, New York City, and parts of Long Island have an attack.
Some of the best pizza
rate close to 1 in 1,000. This is 5 times what the other areas are seeing. Through the high throughput.
You mean where lots of people are close together?
Put lab investigations, we're finding that 28% of the submitted specimens are positive from that area, where it's less than 8% in the rest of the country. So to all of my friends and colleagues in New York, this is the group that needs to absolutely social distance and self-isolate at this time. Clearly the virus.
You mean the places that can't?
Virus had been circulating there for a number of weeks to have this level of penetrance into the general community.
Thank you very much, Deborah.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say what a fantastic job you are doing today. I wish we could just sit this one out and I could just do what I normally do, which is lube up my finger and rub it in and out of your neck gina, but we don't have time.
Mr. President.
Thank you. If everybody could follow the next 6 days to stop the spread, we'll start this again because it's not enough.
The White House Coronavirus Task Force met today, but
because they meet every day, because they have to, because it's a pandemic.
We also convened, at the President's direction, a conference call with the nation's governors. We focused on efforts at mitigation, at testing, and supplies. We discussed the President's recent approval of disaster declarations for Washington and California and New York.
Because he should have done it 4 days ago.
But we also assured governors who've submitted major disaster declarations that we will be reviewing them in an expeditious manner to ensure the full resources the federal government are brought to bear. The President,
And by that we mean you're on your own.
wanted us to make it clear that the federal government will do whatever it takes
Short of actually doing whatever it takes.
to support an effort that is locally executed, state managed,
And federally ignored.
and federally supported.
Same difference.
We reiterated that to our governors today.
And a lot of them had, one of them said, if you'd like to make a call, please hang up and dial your operator.
Listen to them about their specific needs.
One of them had a weird accent. He sounded like, I don't know what that is. It's like he's part seal.
And frankly, made it clear to them.
Frank Lee called them this afternoon, and I said, call him Mr. Lee if you're nasty.
That while the President has published a coronavirus...
Look, I spent some time laminating this today and putting it on poster board. This is my collectible version, and you can't have it.
Virus.gov, the 15 days to slow the spread for every American.
Look at the shiny border I put on this thing or whatever. I was like, hey, I'm tired of holding a piece of paper. Give me one I can mount on the wall and the President can sign.
Millions of Americans are addressing these common sense guidelines.
And they're finding ways to bedazzle them, just like I did. Fantastic. I mean, a trip to Hobby Lobby.
To prevent the spread of the coronavirus in the days ahead, we made it clear to the governors that this president and this administration fully supports decisions that governors are making
because it's just another decision we don't have to make. And that's the important thing to this president, that he has to make as few decisions as possible while taking credit for whatever works.
Communities and
that way, if you fail, it's on you.
States that are particularly
That's why I put Pence in charge of this.
impacted by the spread of the coronavirus, and we are grateful for their efforts.
Tell us about the 3M masks. Have you done that? The N95 masks?
We also spoke to the governors about the importance of the legislation that is currently being negotiated on Capitol Hill.
We talked to them how important it is for the thing that's coming that isn't here yet, that won't do anything quite yet, that won't stop the onslaught that's going to happen in the next couple of weeks and probably won't go out the door for another 8 days. Yeah.
And asked them to encourage members of the House and the Senate to move very quickly. The bill that is currently being...
We threatened them with the lack of resources if they don't sign off on McConnell's bill.
Negotiated. The president said that he believes will be resolved soon, and
his belief clearly changed the face of medicine.
Encouraged by it. Will speed direct payments to families. The average family of 4 will receive $3,000.
A family of 5?
$1,000 directly. There'll be payroll subsidies for small businesses around America to keep people on the payroll while they might be required to stay home. Unemployment insurance benefits, assistance to hospitals and major industries. And we continue to urge the Congress to act and ask the governors to engage their delegations.
Can you bully your representatives into just taking the bill the way we want it? Could you please?
Subject of testing, we reiterated our thanks to states across the...
Burks is literally falling asleep on there too. This whole I need you guys I got it. Everybody has to work 24/7. No Adderall rails, no Diet Coke. That's all for me. I'll be doing executive time. But everybody stay awake. Who's not? Wake up.
Across the country that are rapidly expanding testing at drive-through sites and at community sites.
Walmart parking lots.
As Dr. Burks just reflected, because of the unprecedented...
That's my name. Wake up.
...unprecedented public and private partnership that...
I'm not allowed to partner my privates in public.
The president...
with anyone.
...initiated with our commercial labs.
It's a brand new thing.
We stand here today with 313,000 tests having been completed, with the test results delivered to Americans, and still somewhat more than 40.
What as opposed to what? Canadians, Mexicans? The Democrats wanted us to, as soon as someone was tested, seal it in an envelope and mail it to Guatemala. That's just what they're like. They want an open borders medical. We don't want that.
41,000 have contracted coronavirus. But this state-run effort is continuing to receive the full support of our team at FEMA and at the
because it's their job.
U.S. Public Health Service.
We should all be very proud about the legally mandated bare minimum that we're all doing so effectively by having other people do it. I mean, I don't understand why your generals aren't applauding right now, honestly. Why aren't there ass claps happening?
We're deploying personnel, we're deploying resources, and testing is literally expanding around the country by the hour. As Dr. Burks also mentioned, the FDA has been in the process of reviewing less invasive methods of testing.
Which I'm personally against. I like the invasive version.
The President and I both reflected on the fact that that we have been tested, and
hello and welcome.
We've been working with the FDA to make it
so good
possible for self-collected nasal swabs, where
to be mailed to my house so I can sniff them.
Individuals could, at the end of their nasal passage, collect a sample, and I'm pleased to
at the end of their nasal passage. You mean in their nostril?
Report that...
Which end? Either end, really. You know, the president and I collect samples. All right.
That self-collected swabs can now be collected in clinics and at drive...
So good.
through testing sites. This will expedite the testing process, of course, but it will also reduce the risk to healthcare providers for exposure to the coronavirus, and it will minimize the drain on personal protective equipment. With the current
Yeah, we know. This has already been implemented in other countries.
test
Stop acting like you invented it.
that goes pretty significantly up the nasal passage. People have to wear gear
I went in through the other direction. The president,
and then change out the gear. And this new self-administered test will actually not require the drain on
you will have to change your own underwear afterwards, but that's it. That's,
personal protective equipment, and it's all a part of our effort as
to paint your nostrils for just $99.95.
Admiral Polovchek will discuss in just a few moments.
Admiral who?
To meet the supply needs that we have across the country, but to meet
We're just rotating people right now. Like we were supposed to have a task force. They've been dragging it, like we got to dice this up a little bit. Change out the supporting characters. People are getting bored. They want to see just me. I'm the star. Rotate the neighbor characters like a real sitcom.
efforts at conservation as well. On the
People need to go camping.
subject of testing, it's important to remember, as the old book said, it is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. And so
The old book? What old book is that? The Farmer's Almanac? Just like the old book says. A is for apple. B, that's the oldest book I have.
if you don't
B is for bat soup. C is for coronavirus. You know, the old book.
have symptoms, you don't need to get a coronavirus
Just have an apple and avoid the doctor.
test. We encourage every American to adhere to that so that the testing resources are available for people that are symptomatics.
We want to positively ensure that Americans negatively get a test where they might test positive.
We also will be issuing today from Health and Human Services new guidance to direct all commercial labs to prioritize testing for hospitalized patients. And that guidance is going out tonight. We also reminded the governors today that
Yeah, we've been talking about that for days. They already know that. The governors are already doing this. I love how these guys think of something 2 days after the governors have already implemented it. And by the way, and 3 days after Biden has spoken to the governors about doing this stuff.
today that all
They've been on, they are literally, Biden's team, since he put his team back together, the people who were in the pandemic response team who he's working with, have been talking to the governors and saying, this is what you need to ask for. This is what the federal government can give you legally right now. We know the law. We know the rule. We helped set it up. Go ask for this. They go ask for this. And then 2 days later, Trump's like, I had a great idea. Why don't we do the thing that people asked me to do already?
state laboratories, all hospital
That is genius, Mr. President. How do you do it?
laboratories are now required by law to report the results of coronavirus tests to the CDC.
Positive tests.
On the subject of supplies, in our meeting today at FEMA, we
Supplies.
received a report of the new supply chain
Somebody needs to pop out of a cake next to them and say that.
stabilization task force.
Hey, right
Rear
now,
Admiral
Mike.
John Polovchek is leading that
Oh, I love Rear Admiral John Polovchek.
up at FEMA, and the task force is working to identify medical supplies that exist in the marketplace today, to evaluate the national stockpile.
No wonder her mother doesn't let him go anywhere. He is always caressing the air. We are trying to get things together where we can...
And also working with industries around the country to produce even more of the
where we're
critical medical supplies.
Very important.
And as the president said, businesses across America are
President
stepping
said.
up, and maybe as never before in our history. 3M, in fact, has diverted 500,000 N95
Yeah, we know. Jesus.
masks from commercial customers, and they're being delivered today to
Which was my big idea that I heard from somebody else, but I brought it up in the meeting so first. So
New
dibs.
York and Seattle. Facebook, we would acknowledge, has donated their emergency reserve of over 700,000 N95 masks to healthcare workers, and these are just a few examples of the generosity of businesses. We're also seeing companies step forward to repurpose their manufacturing facilities
Yeah, you said that yesterday.
to create ventilators, to create
This is not new. Why are you coming back out to tell the same thing that was true yesterday?
equipment. And I know I speak for the president when I say how grateful and proud we are for that.
We're so grateful and proud that we're repeating it again like it was our idea for the fourth day in a row.
Also discussed with the
But by the way, we're not going to use the Defense Appropriations Act to actually make them do it. We're just going to pretend it's already happening.
governors a real breakthrough on the availability of
Barr. Ugh, get me out of here.
ventilators. We call
And poor Burks, man. She looks like she's aged 20 years in a week. She's been watching the videos from Italy, you can tell.
on the governors to serve
She's going to pass out and fall over, right?
all outpatient surgical centers and hospital operating rooms.
Can we let Deborah Burks go lay down? Can we let her go have a nap while this nonsense is going on? She could be getting a 2-hour nap during this ridiculousness.
Because surgical ventilators that anesthesiologists use, because of an FDA decision rendered this last weekend, those can be easily converted now to ventilators that can be used for people struggling with severe illness from the coronavirus.
And we are working on a similar deregulation wherein the air conditioning unit on an Airstream trailer in any of our nation's fantastic trailer parks can be repurposed with a garden hose and some duct tape to serve as a rudimentary ventilator for anybody who has more than one Conway Twit album.
And so we called on our governors in conversations with state leaders to survey all of their surgical centers and hospital operating rooms to identify that equipment, and with the new FDA guidelines, they'll be able to convert those to help meet the needs of ventilators across the country.
Which we don't have because we have plenty or whatever. Say we have more than enough, but we're going to get more in case we don't need them, but you probably won't need them. Say that.
Now 8 days into the president's 15 days to slow the spread.
Oh, I love touching this thing. I can't tell you. And I made it all shiny in art class yesterday. And it's not shiny because of the back I put on it. It's because of the lubricant.
The American people are rising to the challenge.
I know I am. Every time I think of the president's 15 days to slow the spread, just the phrase alone makes me rise to the challenge.
We're doing this. But in the days that remain between now and the end of the 15 days,
before we start the next 15 days, because the death rates are going to go up and start spiking in the next 3 days because we waited too long.
we're going to need every American to take this seriously. Listen to your state and local health authorities.
Because they know what's going on. I have my head so far up his ass, all I see is nighttime.
Where there may be additional and stronger guidance in areas where the coronavirus spread has been more severe.
Like Alabama.
But for every American, know that the part that you do, that your family does, that you do in your community to put into practice these principles of social distancing, using a drive-through at the local restaurant, will make an enormous difference in.
Oh, that's good. Okay, good. Got that, guys? The most important thing you can do is use a drive-through right now. Because nothing will stop the spread or slow it than a Frosty. Honestly. I mean, that's thick goodness.
In lowering the trajectory of the coronavirus spreading across our country. It's going to take all of us, but with the ongoing cooperation of the...
This disease is going to take all of us. Maybe don't say that. Maybe don't conflate those two sentences and, it's going to take all of us.
American people with
like we're all the slowest elk in the herd.
Compassion, with the ingenuity of American
Did I just make you guys all want a Frosty all at once? I apologize.
industry, with dedicated leadership at the state and federal level.
We'd like to bring out Smokey the Bear right now. Only you can prevent COVID-19.
I know that we can slow the spread, we can protect our most vulnerable, and we will heal our land.
Yeah, we will heal our land. I am speaking now as a Native American character from a 1950s cowboy show, which is how I chose my haircut.
Admiral, would you please step up real quick and say something? We have to have one person in a military jacket every day, but no more than one, because I don't want you to think you're more important than me. But you only get to talk when I say so. Go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. So I'm Rear Admiral John Polofchek. I'm the Supply Chain Task Force Lead at FEMA. My task is to increase the supply of critical medical supplies, which include personal protective equipment.
Sure, it's like Barr. Should I be standing right behind him? I think he's got a gun. I think he's carrying. I mean, look how big and drapey his jacket is. It looks like it's somebody else's, but that's basically how you carry arms into a place. I mean, I've been briefed on guys like this.
And ventilators, items like that. I just want to take a few moments to explain the organization that we've stood up.
They're just making this guy come out here. He's got a job to do. Leave him alone. I'm sure he's completely effective at his job. He knows what he's there to do. This is nothing that Pence couldn't have described.
Up this week.
This is a show. They're dragging this dude out, making him be part of this lip flap.
These last few days, and our approach. So you have a chart behind me. I have two focus leads, one on personal protective equipment, medical supplies, and a focus lead on ventilators. Operating under 4 lines of effort. First line of effort you see is preservation, and the leaders tonight have talked about that ability to make our stuff last longer.
So take your the masks that doctors and nurses are wearing, dip those in Purell if you can find any. It's not being hoarded in your area, and then microwave them. Hopefully that'll kill anything that's on there. Wait till they cool before you put them on their face. That's a mistake. I won't make a second time or whatever. And then of course just turn your turn your underwear inside out. Rotate that. You can get 4 wears out of that.
Acceleration. We have a team of people that are searching the globe for personal protective equipment.
It should be fairly easy to find when the disease is in 148 countries and we have more money than the top 6 put together.
Figuring out where.
But by the way, hoarding and price gouging are bad.
Where it is. Figuring out if we need to buy it or just transport it and get it here faster.
We could just steal it. Like, sorry, Yemen.
We have a line of effort called reallocation. We're working with our industry partners to illuminate.
This is the first time Trump is hearing of this. Look at the look on his face.
The supply chain.
Really? What? We do? Who signed that?
There are many vendors, many distributors, all on separate system. Nobody has one site picture for that supply chain.
So I'm here to announce what we're calling around our circles the New World Order in terms of medical supplies. And I'm only saying that to make people...
Brought our industry partners in. We're weaving that together to make better allocation decisions and understand where it is and where it needs to go. We have a line called expansion. You've heard some of that today. If those that have wanted to convert plants, those that want to get into the business, we have the tools to help them to go do that. So 2 focus areas right now, PPE and...
Don't say PP.
Ventilators.
I'm taking a quick nap, but I'm doing my Churchill face.
Lines of effort working the problem of the task to get more here, increase the supplies.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So good. That's something no one else could have said for you, but I'm glad you're here wasting your time.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I could, the Washington Post is reporting that the total deaths today crossed 100 for the first time. This morning, your Surgeon General on the Today Show said he wanted Americans to understand that this is going to get really bad. Do you share that?
Well, no, I don't really think it's going to be. I think it's kind of, you got to look at the bright side of who's dying and why.
Prognosis.
Of course I do. It's going to be bad, and we have...
Like I said, it's going to go from 15 to 0 in a very short period of time. We got like 1 case, and we basically stopped it, and which is bad.
A lot of people dying from the flu, as you know. We have a very bad flu season on top of everything else. It's very bad. It looks like it could be over 50,000. And certainly this is going to be bad, and we're trying to make it so that it's much, much less bad.
Oh, good. You guys get that much less bad, if I could pardon my French. But look at Barr every time he said, like, Trump says one of these things. You know, it just grinds Barr that this idiot is his boss. Look at this. We're trying to make this so what I call, some people call, death is not as deadly.
And that's what we're doing. I think we're doing a very good job of it. If you look at other countries,
If I do say so my damn self.
is what they've been through, and you look at the kind of numbers and compare them to ours, which is a much larger country than most. The numbers are pretty amazing, and it started with the fact that we stopped people from coming in from a.
No, it didn't. They're just 2 weeks ahead of us. Their numbers are coming. We haven't done anything to stop it, and everything we've done is too late. That's what Fauci was saying about, like, where you are today is because of things you did a week ago. A week from now, the stuff we did today is what's going to stop it. Like
A highly affected area and infected area and
affected and deflected and affected. So
that was a good thing to do. So
it was so do. I was very smart. I don't know if you noticed that, but a lot of people told me not to do it.
yeah, it's bad, and it's going to, obviously the numbers are going to increase.
Like, you're kidding, right? I have any excuse to close any border ever, and I could still get credit for it.
Time, and then they're going to start to decrease, and we're going to be
Awesome.
opening our country up for business, because our country was meant to be open and working with others, but
What?
especially for our workers. And the engine for that whole system is we have to have companies. And
Oh, okay. Oh, guys, gather around. Economics lesson. Here it comes. This is super good.
these companies are loved by our workers because they're paying
Don't you?
big salaries and big dollars to our workers.
Big dollars. Big dollars. You know those giant checks you see charity people give out? I signed an executive order that's how we're getting paid. Same amount of money, bigger checks.
And we're going to get it all going again very soon. Hopefully, very, very soon, please.
Very soon, or very, very soon. I think very, very, very soon, but maybe very soon as well.
Sir, I'm just trying to reconcile the two things that you just said.
One that was a pile of steaming horse shit, and another one that was just hornswoggle.
Things are going to be very, very bad. And two, that you want to get the country open back up as quickly as possible. So I guess my question is, if in a week Dr. Birx or Dr. Fauci are telling you we need to continue these measures for the health of
Well, I don't think that's going to be necessary, but we'll see.
the vulnerable populations of the country, are you going to say, I'm sorry, the economy is too important?
Well, you'll see what happens. I understand the question very well. It's a great question, but we can do two things at one time. I will say
We can stop a contagion and let everyone go back to normal at the same time. I don't know if you know that, but it's a thing I just made up.
this. Our country's learned a lot. We've learned about
We learned that if you go outside, you're going to kill people. And thank you, Liberty Bee.
social distancing. We've learned
We've learned that's a hot new term. People love that. People have tried it on like a hat, and it's very big at key parties in Mar-a-Lago right now.
about the hands. We've learned about
We learned about hands and holding hands, touching hands. Sweet Caroline.
staying away, at least during the time that this is even a little bit around.
A little bit. It's a little bit around, guys. That's what we're calling it right now. It's a little bit around. It's a medical difficulty that's a little bit around, and we've learned about the hands. What is this?
This disease or whatever you want to call it, many different
But disease works. You mean a virus? You mean COVID-19? You mean the coronavirus?
names. You can call it many different names, but the virus, while it's around.
I have so many names. All right.
And
Beelzebub, Lucifer, Satan.
we can start thinking about, as an example, parts of our country are very lightly affected, very
And one of the ways we can fix that is not having them locked down. That's why Alabama's numbers are skyrocketing.
small numbers. And, you know, you look at a state, great governor, Pete Ricketts in Nebraska. You look at
Nebraska doesn't have a lot of cases, doesn't have a lot of people. So if everybody in Nebraska gets it, really won't even dent the numbers.
the kind of numbers they have out there. They have one of the great hospitals there too, relative to what we're talking about. But
Relative to what we're talking about? What are you talking about? Some hospitals suck at disease.
you look at Nebraska, you look at
You would have got a broken arm, or you get thrown off a horse in Nebraska. That's they'll set a bone. Good frontier medicine. But if you got, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I mean, you better hike to Kansas.
Idaho, you look at Iowa, you look at
Do we look at them? What do we see when we look
many,
at them?
I could name many countries that
Many countries. Iowa, one of our great countries.
are handling it very, very well and that are not affected to the same
Yeah, Idaho's a country. Holy God.
extent, or frankly, not even nearly to the extent of New York, which is really, I'm dealing with Governor Cuomo. And we're dealing very well together. We'll be sending that ship up, by the way, as you know. We have a ship going to Los Angeles. We'll also be, the ship is coming out of a very large repair. It's all ready to go. It very soon will be. And over the next
It is not ready to go. And you can't say it's ready to go and it soon will be. What?
3 or 4 weeks, that'll be coming up to New York. We'll go to New York Harbor, and it'll be fully supplied. So they're working on that right now.
And eventually, but so what? What does that have to do with turning your idea that we're going to go back to normal before this is fixed, jackass?
And maybe Dr. Burks can speak to this. Do you share the president's optimism that in a week we might
Watch it, Debs.
have a situation where we can say, there's a few hot spots, but much of the country.
Well, I didn't say in a week, but I said soon. It's going to be
Soon. I didn't say I'm not making any promises.
yeah, soon. It's not going to be 3 or 4 months, as some people
I said,
were saying, and
you
a
said,
lot of people thought originally, but I would certainly let you
And
answer.
are you worried that some of the cities and states that haven't had the infection yet are lagging indicators and that we're going to start seeing?
she's gonna have to look how bummed he is. Ah, crap. She's gonna push back. She'll kiss your ass first. She's better at it than Fauci is.
So you've raised two important issues. One, I think you all know a lot of our tests have had to go to hospitals at this time so that we can diagnose people who are at risk, to give them options to get these new therapeutic options. None of these therapeutic
Why is he touching himself? I just gonna break wind. Is Mike in position?
options are available if you don't know your diagnosis. So we've been very much focused on that. With adding Abbott, Thermo Fisher, Hologic, and now Cepheid platforms. Cepheid's that new platform that is point of care, but slower. So, you've got to match the throughput, the need to what kind of equipment you have. Now,
So this is why she's exhausted, because she's trying to thread this needle with the limited resources that they have in 5 different locations. And she's trying to put as good a spin on this as you possibly can. And basically what she's saying is that all these states that have very few cases in them have lots more cases because they can't test for them. And these are the people who are walking around. As bad as the cases in New York are and as high as the case number is, that's because they're testing more and they have more available tests because they jumped on it. Same as California and Washington State. But they've got cases in Alabama, New Orleans, and nobody is slowing down, hanging out. Yeah.
now
I
that we
don't
have
like
all
it.
those platforms moving simultaneously, we can go back to doing case finding and
Don't do it, Deborah. Don't do it.
surveillance in the areas that have the most lower numbers, as well as doing mitigation.
Look at him. Wait, what? Is what she's saying totally in line with me, or is she threatening me? I don't know the difference. I don't understand these words.
And more aggressively in the places that have higher numbers. We went out with a very blunt force. I mean, we have to all be honest. We had to do that because we weren't sure where the virus was and where it is going. I think over the
Pence, blunt force. Just jammed it right in there. Just felt it and pushed it and pulled it. Things mother won't let me do.
this week, we're concentrated on figuring out exactly where the virus is and making projections about where it's going and the impact of our mitigation
I don't think it's going anywhere, though. Excuse me, lady. Get out of the way. Can I just say for a second that this is... I don't see this actually happening.
pieces. We learned this in tackling epidemics around the world. You have to focus the resources and the intervention and the structural prevention interventions in the areas where the virus is circulating.
Can I say intervention? I like the sound of that word, adventions. Adventurous interventions. I'm going to say that I'm going to say that tomorrow a bunch. Makes me look like a boss.
Otherwise, people never understand why you're doing this and they don't have any virus. So it has to be very tailored geographically, and it may have to also be very tailored by age group. Really understand.
So good, Yeah, tailored.
Who's
Tailored Swift.
at the greatest risk and understanding how to protect them.
But there's data showing that in 3 months, as the president said, we won't need to follow these broad guidelines that he's laid
The
out.
only data that we all have, and I think you all know what it is, the two areas
I don't
that
know
have
what it is.
moved through their curve is China and South Korea. So those are the two countries that we're learning from. Those were 8 to 10 week curves. Each state in each hotspot in the United States is going to be its own curve because the seeds came in at different times. So
Wait a minute. Is this like body snatchers? Seeds? Hold on a second.
Washington State is on their curve. They're about 2 weeks ahead of New York. And so each of these have to be done in a very granular way to really understand where we are. And it's the charge that the president has given us is to use all of our data analytics
I did that.
and
That was
all of
me.
our data inputs to really define those issues about where the virus is, where is it going, and what predictions we can make about where we are in that bell-shaped curve.
I think that's a great definition, and I will say we're going to be watching our senior citizens very closely. We're going to be watching certain hotspots like New York, and within
So
New York
good.
you have areas which are troubling, and we'll be working with the governor and the mayor and everybody else on those spots. But at the same time, at a certain point, we have to get open and we have to get moving. We don't want to lose these companies. We don't want to lose these workers. We want to take care of our workers. So we'll be doing something, I think, relatively quickly, but we've learned a lot during this period. This was a very necessary period. Tremendous information was gained.
Why was this? What?
But we can-
What do you mean it's a necessary period? It's a good thing we had this disease. You know what I mean? It's kind of like my presidency. It points how many holes the ship had in it. If we just set sail, Christ.
do two things at one time. And again, I say,
We could both release people into the, infected people out into the public and also watch them die. We can do both of those things.
we have a very active flu season, more active than most. It's looking like it's heading to 50,000 or more deaths, not cases.
Yeah, and that number's going to grow because there won't be enough beds to treat the people who are dying from flu.
50,000 deaths, which is, that's a lot.
On your watch.
And you look at automobile accidents, which are far greater than any numbers we're talking.
Yeah, but they're not contagious, dipshit. Nobody sneezes on you and makes you have a car accident on the way home.
About that doesn't mean we're going to tell everybody no more driving of cars. So
No, but we lowered the speed limit. We set up stop signs and stoplights, and we painted lines on the road. All this shit didn't come out of nowhere. It existed because of the problem.
we have to do things.
We have to do things like ride dune buggies on the shoulder.
To get our country open. But this has been an incredible period of learning, and we'll have announcements over the next fairly short period as
Short period. Look at Barr.
to the timing. John, please.
Will we really, though, Mr. President? I don't know if that's going to happen. I got to be completely honest with you.
Mr. President, I want to ask about these guidelines on testing. Obviously, Senator Rand Paul has tested positive for coronavirus.
Yeah, it's the saddest one. I was happy about Romney. I'm sad about Rand.
But he was not in contact with anybody who was known positive, and he didn't have any major symptoms. Under your guidelines, under the guidelines that have been outlined here, he would not have gotten a test. He got one anyway. So what do you say to him? He's pointed out that if he hadn't gone basically in defiance of these guidelines and got tested, he might still be showing up to the Senate right now and infecting the whole U.S. Senate.
Not my fault. Not really anything you want to talk about there. All right, I'm going to skip ahead to Burks. I'm going to be on
in about 20 minutes, I'm going to be on Richard Marx's stream, so I'm going to tighten this one up today because God knows we don't need to hear anything from.
Place.
I'm not going to learn anything. I'll
for
jump
a couple
ahead.
Of months, 2
Well,
or
they
3
will be in
months.
place. At some point, we're going to open up our country, and it's going to be fairly soon.
Weeks or months? Because you seem to be
I think days. Look at Barr.
I'm not looking at months, I can tell you right now. We're going to be opening up our country, and we're going to be watching certain areas, and we're going to be practicing everything that Deborah's referring to right here. I mean,
Like, don't, for example, the virus can stay on surfaces for up to 72 hours, especially if they're laminated, plasticky surfaces. It'll stay even longer on that. And Mike had one of his staff, and oh my God!
We're going to be watching this very closely, but you can't keep it closed for the next, for years. Okay, this is going away. We're going to win the battle, but we also have, you have tremendous responsibility. We have jobs. We have people get tremendous anxiety and depression, and you have suicides over things like this. When you have terrible economies, you have death.
Like when somebody even brings up suicide from a big podium like mine, it raises the suicide rate. I don't know if you noticed that.
Big groups of people, we've learned a lot. There's a great discipline that this whole country has learned, having to do with distancing, having to do with shaking.
That's not a discipline you want. What the hell?
I think people in these areas. There are other areas that just aren't affected, or they're affected very little. And why would we close down 100% of the country? There are areas within New York where New York will be open, but there are areas.
Because if you'd have done this when you were supposed to, you could have done that. Now it's in every state.
Is within New York.
It's like this is a New York problem. Why do I have to shut down Montana?
Remember this, New York has the New York
Just granted because most people in Montana have the same
Stock Exchange. It has NASDAQ. It has the exchanges.
shit I care about,
To close
Nebraska, we lose some Nebraskans.
the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ and with all of the great work they're doing. I mean, they've gone.
Fantastic. These are good people. These are the best people among us. These are, some people call them the elites. I call them the elites. We need them.
Largely to computer. You look at the floor, it's incredible what they can do, but it's fully
It's
open.
amazing, all the screens. I can't even.
But we don't want to be doing that. But we can do, what I'm saying basically is that we can do two things simultaneously.
No, we can't. Look at Burks.
And we've had this incredible learning period. Plus, people have been in a period and they won't be calling, oh, gee, because I've got many, many people that now come to me and say, we get it. We think we can really do it now and do it while we're open. So at some point, we'll be setting some guidelines.
Look, we get it. Some of our customers are going to be told to live, and you never know who's got a lung problem. So we'll just shoot them.
We'll be setting some datelines, and we'll be announcing them in the not-too-distant future.
Any of the doctors on your team endorsed easing the federal
We're not
guidelines?
endorsed. We talk together, and I think they're okay with it, and I'm okay with it.
They're not endorsing it legally. That would put them in
The subway, and you grab the handle, and you go down to wherever you're going on Wall Street, and you do all sorts of things, and you go in, and you open the doors going into your great buildings or into the exchanges, and now you're not going to have to maybe think about doing that, or you're going to think about doing it a different way. No, there are many trade-offs. It's a
Look where he thinks the only important travel happens.
different life, and maybe it'll remain that way, frankly, after the invisible scourge is gone. Maybe
Scourge.
it's going to stay that way. Not a bad thing to stay that way. But,
Scourge.
no, there are trade-offs. There's no
Jesus.
question about that. But I actually
Oh, so good. You don't even realize. There's some trade-offs that are even better than the trade-offs that we traded with.
think it's going to. I think in the end we're
Let me rephrase.
going to end up being bigger, better, and stronger. We have learned a lot. Please.
Somebody else give me another one. Jesus.
We're seeing an increase of cases in Latin America, in the Middle East,
Yeah, you are. That's why I'm keeping all those people out.
in some places in Asia.
Latin America, don't let those people in.
Are you
Asylum seekers, I hear they're the worst carriers.
considering a new round of travel ban?
No, we're not really. I mean, something like that could happen, I guess, but we're not really. They thought we were going to have bans within the United States. We didn't do that. We're not going to have that. Hopefully that'll take care.
Look at Bart. Hey man, do you really have to? Don't bother the man.
Care of itself. No, in Latin America there's been an uptick. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, just quickly, a second question. What prompted you to say at the beginning of your comments that you're going to take care of the Asian Americans? Has there been something in particular that was?
Yeah, because it seems that there could be a little bit of nasty language toward the Asian Americans in our country.
You mean the ones that are getting beat up?
And I don't like that at all.
Because you call it the Chinese virus?
These are incredible people. They love our country, and I'm not going to let it happen. So I just wanted to make that point.
Because after 5 days of calling it the Chinese virus and basically telling my supporters that this was fine.
Because they're blaming China. People are blaming
virus?
China, and they are making statements to great American citizens that happen to be of Asian heritage, and I'm not going to let that happen. Please.
You already did. You're the reason it is happening, jackass.
You want to reopen the country, but most schools across the country are closed. 2 states now are closed for the rest of the school year. How are parents supposed to go back to work and educate their children right now?
The governor.
Yeah, they're just going to have to reopen them. I don't care.
Of the various states will have a lot of leeway. If we open up, and when we open up, the governors in certain states, for instance, you go to some of the states I just mentioned, those schools are going to be open. Many cases they're open now, but the schools are going to be.
I don't want, that's like a tyranny of averages. And that's not having,
jumping ahead,
probably
sorry.
missing 50-60% of the data because no one was testing asymptomatics. Remember, in every country, you had to be symptomatic to get a test. So we're making
yeah, it's not our fault.
Fatality rates when we're missing a significant part of the data. So if anything, it will go lower, but I don't want that should not be reassuring because the death rates escalate with age and pre-existing conditions. So I really want to be clear that although it may be very low if you're under 40 or very low if you're under 50 and very low if you're under 70, there is an inflection curve. The average age of the person who's dying in Italy is in the mid-80s. So there is really...
Yeah, but that's not true of the other countries. It's true because of Italians who all live together.
Really a significant issue in our older generation that we feel strongly about protecting.
But Doctor, because it's just very interesting, the whole thing. It's an incredible subject. When somebody is very sick...
Oh, Trump talk show.
Go to a doctor, go to a hospital, they record it, they're very sick, and then they live or they don't live, see what happens. But when somebody isn't very sick at all, I've heard people that they don't even know they had it, and they're healing. Then I've heard people, they have like a cold, or they have a running nose, or even people that stay home and they think they have the flu, or in some cases they think they have a really bad case of the flu. But all of those people, that vast majority of, beyond vast majority of people, they're not reporting. They're not calling the doctor. Right. They're not calling him. They're just getting better. So you would think it would have to be because the people that are sick are going to a doctor or they're going someplace and they're going to say, make me better. The people that are just short of that and people that aren't even, we have many people.
Hey, dummy, it doesn't matter. The number of people who need medical intervention because of this to survive it is so high it will swamp any medical system on earth. It doesn't matter. It literally is so contagious that the 80% who have mild or no symptoms at all carry it to enough people that you could clog any hospital system on earth.
Really don't even know that they have it. So now you're building up the number of cases that we talked about before, and yet, so you don't know you don't know how many it could be a vast number. Right. But what you do know is all the people that are really sick, because all of the people that are really sick are going to a doctor in some form, and the doctor is reporting it in all cases. So,
but that's why your question about the antibody test is so critical, because that will give us really a much better baseline to really understand.
So Mr. President, you talk about how it can be a much, much bigger problem. You said that at several stages on whether or not we keep these guidelines in place. You talked about higher death. Are you talking about suicide? Like, help us understand.
I'm talking about many forms.
Is the risk here a depression? Is that what you're getting at?
We're talking about tremendous. Look, number one, it's the country itself. You're talking about tremendous disruption economically, but you're talking about massive depression, massive numbers of suicide.
You mean economic depression?
No, I'm not talking about economic, although you could be talking about that too.
So
what I'm talking about is
depression.
People suffering massive depression because they had a fantastic job and now they have no idea, what's going on. Now, here's the good news. If they get the bill passed, we're taking care of those people. We're going to really take good care of those people beyond what any country has done for people. But this,
socialist architecture. All right.
I've gotten to like this room. This room is very convenient. I can say from the standpoint of being president of the United States, this has been a very convenient room for all of us. You people have set up, so I never even
like it faces one direction.
Thought of closing it. So you're asking me a question that I never thought in terms of closing it. Can you give me a good reason to close it? We could build a larger room.
Opportunity to keep. I mean, you see.
I don't want to make commitments like that because it's not something I've ever really thought about.
Thank you, Venus
There are
Flytrap.
certain people that would like to see.
Thanks for the Patreon support, guys. You guys are wonderful. I appreciate you guys jumping in and doing that. It's really lovely to see. Our goal for the show is 500. We're at 160, I think, now. So thank you guys so much for jumping in there on this. Again, I will be hopping in here every day to try and add a little cheer. And I appreciate you guys for being a part of it.
We need a larger room. Other presidents didn't need such a large room. But we need a larger room, and there are some people, but it's not something that is really on my mind, to be honest with you.
I don't care if the reporters get sick. Really, it's not a big deal. Mike, you want to talk about this? All right, we'll get the sign-off comment from him, and then we'll go, because I got to go hook up with. I'll post the link on my Twitter feed of Richard Marx's show.
As opposed to the current process, which is not, as I've said, it's not pleasant.
My other question for you, I just want to get clarity on this. If we get to next week, you're deciding what.
Trump had a test, and then somebody on Pence's staff was in contact with somebody who had it, so he got his test. They're waiting on their results. Rand Paul got a test in that time or whatever. Trump needs another test.
What to do with these guidelines, whether to ease them or reinstate them for another 15 days. Will you follow the advice of Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci if they say you should maintain them for 2 more weeks?
And then ultimately I have to make a decision, but I
like Lou Dobbs.
Certainly listen to them. I listen to a number of people. But
I listen to a lot of people. I listen to my spiritual advisor who's selling copper spray.
For Dr. Fauci and for Dr. Birx, and I'll be listening to them and others that we have that are really doing a good job. John?
But are you worried that if you do this too quickly, if you lift these restrictions too quickly, the virus will start spreading unabated? And how can you be sure that that's not going to happen?
Well, you gotta, I don't care.
We have now a system, and the system's in place. And
no, we don't. No, we don't.
We have two very, very powerful alternatives that we have to take into consideration. And as I said, one of the things that has really gotten me thinking about this, number one, I'm looking at what's going on, and life is fragile, and economies are fragile. But one of the things.
But which one? If the economy and your loved ones are drowning, which one do you throw the life preserver to? I think it's obvious, the economy.
Things is the mortality rate, John. When we first started this, nobody knew anything about this particular virus. Very, very.
They knew a lot about it.
I mean, we started off. We were hearing numbers of 5%. That's an astronomical number. When the flu is 0.001 and 2 and 3, right? And so 5% would be an astronomical number. Now we're seeing numbers that may be less than 1, and that's not including the exercise that I just went through where many people don't report. So everybody getting very sick is reporting, but nobody getting, not very sick. And that should be part of that equation. So that just keeps reducing.
Yeah, even the people without getting tested, without finding out, the volume of human beings that spread it and have it still overwhelms your hospitals. And when they're overwhelmed, everybody else who gets a sickness or an injury will die for a lack of care. That's why you need the ships, jackass. Thank you, Patricia, giving us the character with the fist and bump. I appreciate that. Thank you.
The number.
so good. You know what I mean? I mean, you can't.
The mortality rate is that's a big, to me, that's a very big factor. When
Is it really? Does it matter?
we were hearing 3 and 4%, remember we had one day where we thought it was 5%, and we were getting a lot of bad
Thank you.
numbers from countries that,
Thank you,
I don't
Patricia.
know why, but we were getting a lot of bad numbers. I do wish, our relationship's very good with China, but I wish they could have told us about this a little bit sooner,
We knew.
that.
I knew. They knew. We knew.
But the mortality rate's a big thing for me because I think we're very substantially under 1% now. That's it's still
It hasn't even hit the hospitals yet.
terrible. It's still the whole thing. The whole concept of death is terrible.
I hate it. I would have vetoed the whole thing if I would. I'm still mad at God about that whole thing. But I have to say I like him and his book in both Corinthians because of the
There's a
evangelicals.
tremendous difference
Thank you,
between
Jill.
something under 1%.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for being you. Well, I tried being someone else for a while, but apparently that's illegal.
And 4 or 5 or even 3%. So
4 or 3 or 2, maybe it's 1%. Pool or pond or pool. That's all.
that's something that we're learning now. And I think the number may
So good.
be lower than people think because of what I've been saying. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, have you instructed Secretary Mnuchin and the others working on this bill with Congress to meet some of the demands the Democrats have made with regard?
Well, I thought we had a deal last night, and then the Democrats changed the deal. So we had a deal last night that was going to be phenomenal for the workers, which is my...
The deal was so good that it was McConnell's bill and nobody could read it, and they were supposed to just sign it, and it was growing great, and then they read it.
Number one.
Number 2.
My number one aim, I want to take care of the workers. And we had
Yeah, I could tell.
a deal. I was pretty sure we had a deal last night. If you would have told me at a certain time, like about 9 o'clock, I would have told you we pretty much...
We have a deal because I wrote The Art of the Deal. I know what a deal is. I've seen a deal, and I could smell a deal a mile away.
have a deal.
Smell that, Mike? Boy, do I.
And then all of a sudden it changed fairly rapidly. And,
After they read it,
it was unacceptable. It would have been bad for our country. And they were asking for things that would have not been good. I mean, things that bore no relationship to what we're talking about. We said, that's not the game. We can't play that game. So we'll see. Look, the Democrats do want to make a deal. But, Jeff, I thought we had a deal last night.
Nancy Pelosi wrote me a beautiful letter, said she wouldn't test any more missiles. I believe her.
Come further into this process weeks or months from now and decide that further stimulus is needed, will you be able to work with Speaker Pelosi on that?
I'll work with anybody to help the American people. I will. Buying back stock. I like them spending money
Stock
on
buybacks, yeah, we know.
airplanes and on their employees and their real business, not
Stuff.
buying back stock. And I don't know if that provision is going to be put in.
Did everybody
one way or
leave
the other,
behind
but
him?
I'm all for it. And many Republicans, I can tell you, are
Did you just bail people out?
When you're looking at some of the economic headwinds that we're facing, I'm wondering if one of the things you're concerned about is the strength of the dollar, and if there's something that we should do to address
Is that the OAN guy?
Well, we have a very strong dollar, and a strong dollar is
So
good
strong.
in many ways, but it's also tough in many ways because it makes trade much harder. It makes it much harder for Caterpillar Tractor and other companies to sell their goods to Europe or China or wherever they may be sold. So
It's kind of like an immune system. You can have too strong an immune system and you get rheumatoid arthritis, but if you have too weak an immune system, you live in New York.
having a strong dollar is good, but it
Whereas Alabama or Nebraska have great both.
really sounds good, but the truth is it makes certain things like trade much tougher.
So I'm a currency manipulator now, is what I'm saying.
And our dollar, I don't know if you've seen, but our dollars remain very strong, especially
So good.
against other currencies, very, very strong, which, again, makes that trading more difficult, but there's something nice about having a strong dollar, right? No matter what. I'm president, it's nice to have a
Strong sounds
dollar.
strong sounds better than weak. Strong is not is good, and weak is bad. That's how I speak.
But it does make trading more difficult.
Just to go back to stimulus, you're confident you're going to get a deal?
Well, I think the Democrats want a deal, and I think we want a deal. So it would be very foolish if they didn't make a deal. The American public is demanding a deal. I can tell you the Republicans want to make a deal, and we want to make a deal that's good for the workers, good for the country.
Great.
And I
So
really
good.
believe the Democrats want to make a deal, but they have to stop. asking for things that bear no
In the name of
relationship
love.
to what we're talking about.
You've had a lot of laudatory things
That
to
are
say.
actually bad, that are actually not good for the country.
You've been very laudatory to the Democratic governors. You mentioned Governor Cuomo. You mentioned some others.
Yeah, but that's because they said nice things about me.
If you'd get a stimulus bill, I'm wondering if you'll extend this bipartisan goodwill to Speaker Pelosi and invite her here for a signing ceremony.
Well, let's see what happens. I have to see what happens.
I
Right
am
now, we
contagious after all, and she may not even want to be in the same room with
don't
me.
have a deal, but I think we're very close. I mean, when I left, which was quite a while ago now, because again, we're trying to answer every question, so there's no, it'd be nice if you were just exhausted and said, that's it, we can't do anymore, but there's always hands up. But, and maybe one of those questions.
Maybe you just shorten these things and just give out pertinent information and shut up and stop telling us the same 6 things over and over again as if they've already happened.
Questions is great and
I don't know.
unique. But
So good.
No, look, I want what's good for the country.
And what's good for the country is what's good for Ivanka.
And if that means meeting, I think that's great. I just want what's good for the
Don't say meat, Mr. President. Not while I'm this close.
country, great for our workers, great for the citizens of the United
Great,
States.
so great.
It's all
You're gonna go. This time next year, you're gonna go. I wish we still had coronavirus. It's gonna be so good.
Well, it's been a little while. Yeah, please.
I don't care.
Vice President.
All right, I got to sign off because I got to join Richard Marks. I will post that link right now. We know what he's going to say the rest of this. I'll see you guys a little bit later. Big hugs all around. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you to our patrons. Thanks Can't Stop Lying and Carl and everybody for being in here and helping. And I will see you guys back.